Again, we have a lot of questions coming in through the Google spreadsheet. But again, we will follow up on anything we don't get covered now in our Q&A. But I'm just going to open it to the floor. And please, could we have people who haven't spoken yet would be great if your table doesn't mind nominating you. Excellent. So we've done a table 3. We have table 10. Is it Anne? Okay. So table 3 first of all.
Hi. We were just wondering, when it comes to building roads and infrastructure, biodiversity doesn't seem to get the priority that it deserves, especially when it's going through bogs. I come from County Louth and we have a bog in RD, and they're currently talking about building a massive road through it. So with the endangerment of the curlews and whatnot, we're just wondering, like, why does this not get adequate consideration when assessing environmental impacts?
Thank you, Donna. Who would like to take that? And Nuala, I realise you're there as well if you want to wave, if you want to take any questions. You want to take this one?
No, well, one of the things I'd say is that one of the work of the Irish Peatland Conservation Council, I'm very familiar with the site in County Louth, RD Bog. And again, I suppose it goes back to policy and departments within the government. I don't know why the considerations aren't taken in, but one of the works that we do is respond to planning applications, and we do a lot of scoping documents as well on raising the concerns of peatland biodiversity that we have for developments, but in terms of why in particular it doesn't get the attention that it should get in terms of our policies and plans, maybe another member of the panel might be able to support better.
Thanks, Nuala. Kieran's going to take this as well, and Seamus.
What I would say there is don't underestimate the power of community, and if the agencies aren't listening, make a racket.
The only question I'd probably throw back a little bit, usually when you build a road, there's an environmental impacts analysis done, and I'm just asking, that should have been done, and I'm wondering what the results were, because normally when you go to do something like that, there are a lot of planning stuff to do, so I'm surprised in a way that they're doing that, but it'd be interesting to see what the environmental analysis, impact analysis is.
Thank you. And we actually have urban and planning in our next weekend, so hopefully we can get even more answers to that, Donna. Now, Anne at table 10.
Thank you for your contributions. And one of the things we noticed is that there were so many voices from the peatlands today. There was the different groups that you are all representing, and then there were all these plans and like Nature and all of these other organisations, plans, initiatives that all seemed to be tied in, and it seemed to be an awful lot of I suppose labels, organisations, groups working. And what we really wanted to know is, to what extent do the various organisations engage and collaborate with each other? And then, more importantly, is there an action plan that makes provision for both financial and communicative collaboration across agencies regarding peatlands and biodiversity? Thank you very much.
Lovely, thank you, Anne. Who would like to? Seamus?
Okay, firstly, another hat I wear as chair of the Peatlands Council, which is a group of stakeholders which manages, and they have produced, and there's a new one to be produced very shortly, what they call the National Peatland Strategy. So that's on the various websites and can be seen. In terms of the organisations working together, I think there's a lot of organisations working together, but and this is almost against ourselves. We're, at the end of the day, we're a voluntary organisation as well, as indeed Kieran and anyone else who's been speaking about this. I would argue that that you need a national real strategy. Now, I'll argue strongly in favour of Parks and Wildlife. They have been regenerated, I think, in the last year or so, in the last couple of budgets. That's a good sign. They were reduced enormously in during the recession years, they took an awful hit, and that was not good for this process. But I would argue, rather than us begging sometimes for programs to bring in, as I talked about the Farm Peat program, or Kieran in the work he's trying to do with Carberry Bog, instead of us all the time coming forward with solutions that don't get funded, I would argue it should be the other way around, and it's not. And I think, in a way, I think the responsibility on us is way above our pay grade.
Thanks, Seamus. Catherine?
Yeah, I might just, there is more collaboration through the Acres cooperation projects now and the Wild Atlantic Nature IP, you can see that alignment of nature conservation objectives and farming objectives. So that's a real move towards the right direction, because prior to this, they were not working together, not communicating at all in terms of shared perspectives for nature and farming. And of course, a lot of that is down to the leading work that James and Brendan started a couple of decades ago. But we really need a proper, there's a strategy there, and I was actually there when it began, and it just was a response document, a reactionary document, really, to a demand from the EU in relation to where we at with organising our thinking about peatlands. But a strategy needs to have actions and resources and timelines and targets, and not just a sort of a bland, we'll all work together and we'll all do nice things together and we won't say bad things about each other. It has to have defined actions, and people have to be accountable and timelines set for that, and it's not there, and that's what we need. It's an action plan as opposed to a bit of an old blurb somewhere. Nuala, you wanted to say something on it.
Yeah, I think I just wanted to highlight, though, peatlands, as we know, are very much part of Irish people. And as part of that within the government, one of the challenges I think we have is they're crossing government departments. Peatlands are involved in the Department of Agriculture, the Department of Energy, the Department of Local Government and Heritage and Communications. And I think while we have the Peatlands Council and, like Seamus, the Irish Peatland Conservation Council engage with that, we do need to bring our government departments together when policies are being drawn up in terms of peatlands, because they do cross so many cultural sectors of our communities.
Thanks, Nuala. Comprehensive answers to all that. We'll take another question. Okay, we've question one, and then Sheila, I'll come back to you if that's okay. So I'll take table one first of all. There's two hands if you want to discuss among yourselves. Ailish, thank you.
Hi, my name's Ailish. So one of the things, just from my own personal experience, is the current schemes for the low-income families, etc., they're still using turf. Is there any recommendations for new schemes or new possibilities to actually change the heating? Because currently you still need a big chunk of money to get the system done and support that may be funded, and then there's a crazy wait time to actually go and get it implemented. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. First of all, just to say something I didn't say, like 94% of turf cutters and their families have accepted the designation, are in part of the programme and indeed some of the compensation schemes. So just to say that, in case that's good news really. In terms of the low-income families, this is what worries me, and I'll be honest with you, everybody I know was happy with the budget, but in this area I was not happy. I said before, the problem is retrofit. The problem is heating. Solve that and you have less problems with peatlands. So I would argue that the 1500 is running out shortly, and there's in many cases nothing done to change the heating system in those houses. That's a problem that's going to have to be faced, and it should have been faced at last budget. So that has to be solved. And I would argue we are not urgently retrofitting. I know there's problems, I know there's shortage of labour and all sorts of problems, but it doesn't seem to be an urgent priority. they will have to, in my opinion, continue that subsidisation of low-income households that stop cutting turf until they resolve it some other way.
Okay, thanks, Seamus and Ailish. Chris, was that the same kind of... Okay, and Sheila at table 5, and then we'll come to James at 13.
So building on the ending of the compensation and something that was said yesterday by one of the farmers in terms of building an economic model, what, if any, opportunities are there to create economic development in boglands other than turf cutting that doesn't cause biodiversity? Or do we need a tailored approach like we heard in farming on a case-by-case basis?
Okay. Yeah, I would argue let's start dealing with the wetlands, and Kieran is very much involved in the Wetlands Forum, which we support and administer. Let's deal with them as local assets. Let's start dealing with them as local assets. Many wetland areas or boglands or retired boglands contribute to the water system, so they're already working towards the local economy. It's just they're invisible. Yeah, there will be biodiversity. I mean, in Clara, if you visit Clara Bog now, you'll see, I don't know, much worth of hardware measuring weather systems, measuring air quality, measuring all sorts of stuff. So there are a number of scientists employed. There were a number of people over the last few years in restoration employed. There is a tourist element. Don't ever write off that. That's an important element. And there may be other economic advantages, including if, depending on where the bog is, it can be a site for solar and other forms of energy as well. So my argument back to you, I would say, that really, I would love to sit with a group of scientists and planners to say, how can we turn this asset into an economic driving?
If I could just add quickly, that's a really good question, and that's a question that we're actively in our community looking at and brainstorming on. And there are lots of ideas coming forward, but it's a really good question. I'm confident there are lots of opportunities there. We have to think outside the box, but that's live question right now that we're thinking about. Yeah.
And Catherine as well?
Well, I was just going to say about payments for ecosystem services. So, I mean, we have this perception that we have to be doing something with something in order for it to have value. You know, that we have to use it to, you know, or we have to be out breaking our backs, cutting turf in order to have a sort of a manifest value. But by having healthy peatlands, by restoring and bringing them back to good health, you know, there's a market there for, you know, having good habitat quality, water quality, for not having to pay for, you know, flood control further downstream. So we need to look at, you know, all of the costs that we're offsetting by restoring these areas. And then, of course, the carbon side of the house. So in the UK, they have developed a peatland code where when you restore your peatlands, you get a value, or you get a credit, or you get a payment for the carbon stored. So looking at those sides of market type approaches, changing the market. So everything is market driven, but, you know, just to sort of change that mindset that we have to be using it to be of value. Now, you can have a limited lower level of food production on these sites as well, in terms of managing for grazing and all that sort of thing, but it has to be at a right level, and that can be linked back then to, you know, payments for habitat quality. So, you know, it's about changing the mindset, and I think I might have preempted what you were going to say, Nuala, but I would never second guess you.
No, you're 100%, Catherine, and what you thought there. I was also going to comment on natural capital. Our natural world provides us with many services. They don't have to always show, you know, the benefits. But you've mentioned it there perfectly in terms of you know, the ecosystem services that they do offer, from flood control, water regulation, clean healthy water, and as you said, carbon, and indeed biodiversity. We're all part of a wider web of life, and peatland biodiversity is part of that, and it does provide us with a service. But also agreeing with Seamus and what he has said as well in terms of recreation, you know, and local businesses there. You know, there are opportunities, but we can't forget those ones that would be less traditional than what we typically expect.
Thanks,
Those are
Nuala. Thank you very much. Now I'm going to take James's question and a brief answer to that. So if we can get the microphone to 13. I hope I have the name right.
Hi. Sorry, it's Liam. Sorry.
Liam. Sorry, Liam. My apologies.
No problem. I'm just wondering that, is there a way that we can, with renewable energy, we can integrate them better into areas with less impact on biodiversity and of more benefit to local communities? Because, like, at the end of the day, we're trying to heat our houses with an alternative source, and is renewable energy, example wind farms, a possibility, and how they can be integrated better with less impact on biodiversity?
Great question, Liam. And
thank you.
Kieran?
Yeah, again, I'm going to say to you, watch this space, because our group are exactly looking at that. We have a really successful local energy enterprise that has been working. We happen to be using turf. We are looking at the possibility of replacing that energy with solar. Now, there are regulatory barriers, one after the other, like a horse jumping course in front of us, but they're beginning to come down slowly. But we have to be able to swap out burning peat for renewables. We have to be able to.
Yeah, I think, you know, the issue with the renewables and the peatlands, I mean, peatlands have always been seen as wastelands, and it goes back to that thing of, well, we better be using them for something and rather just be using them for, you know, something that's perceived as a green solution. But draining peatlands to produce, you know, that green solution is, I think you can see it's not the right solution. And we know that now, but I think that's what I was referring to in terms of ambition and innovation. So the ambition being to think outside the box. So rather than going for the easy win, we have this peatland over here, no one's doing anything, we'll stick a load of turbines on it or solar panels. To think about innovation and smart solutions. We're very smart people. We know how to do things, not just take the easy win or the sort of easy out. That's what I would say.
I think that's a good place to leave it. Thank you sincerely to Catherine, to Seamus, to Kieran, to Nuala for that great discussion, and thanks again for the questions and answer session as well to everyone.